For so long, all of us scatterbrained, silksong drained, driven insane from the path of pain simpletons have been fighting each other over a question that has plagued every facet of social media which expresses any shred of interest in this franchise. Is Hornet void? But argument after argument, post after post, video after video, we've gained absolutely no ground over this matter. And I can hear everyone typing in the comments already. But what about the silksong gameplay and the E3 footage? God, just
shut the fuck up in the background! You're basting game in trouble! Shut your fucking mouth!
Almost everything we've seen so far has been on Nintendo's end. And with everything that's gone on lately, which has highlighted how much miscommunication occurs between the smallest possible indie dev team and a literal gaming powerhouse, which, by the way, definitely could have had the resources to present accurate information instead of sending us spiraling into divisive madness and uncertainty, if they actually cared about Hollow Knight, I'm not going to take any chances trusting a single second of presented gameplay from those frauds. No. Instead, I'm going to look towards the facts and reveal the paths that have yet to be discovered. Focus on what we know, and that which we don't know we don't know. Thank you, Harry. To finally uncover the truth behind this mystery that has broken friendships, burned bridges, and effectively fooled each and every one of us fellow Hollow Knight advocates with this age-long dilemma. Is killing the nailsmith with a spell hilarious? It absolutely is. 100% no questions asked. Thank you for watching. Alright, now that all the fake fans clicked off the video, we can get down to the real business. Is Hornet void? Now, any individual learned in the lore of the game or cognizant of both the Abyss and Hornet's background would say, no, that's not the case at all. And admittedly, this does make complete sense when you take into account that humans share a majority of our genome with the biological composition of jellyfish, which could absolutely mean that there's bound to be plenty of brainless fucks who would actually agree with this claim. But not me. Instead, I intend to show just how ridiculous this perspective is, and highlight exactly how blind we've been all this time. This search for the truth begins at the very foundation of Hallownest's lore. Language. Now, it should be noted that the bug language throughout the kingdom is vastly critical to the thorough understanding of the presented story. For example, does Hornet really say get good? Or was Team Cherry actually being serious when they said it was just a coincidence with the real word gekdu or some shit? Does the word bapanada not immediately shoot the image of a certain mapmaker's trophy wife in everyone's mind? Does the phrase Doma Doma not explicitly and wholeheartedly dump feelings of stinky joy and adrenaline in our bodies? Look, the point I'm trying to make is that Team Cherry explicitly puts an emphasis on not just what the words are, but how they are presented. You can't just take everything at face value with Hollow Knight. Our high school knowledge of looking for deeper meaning in poems you'll forget about literally as soon as you're done reading them is actually helpful here. As such, we have to delve into the sacred text of knowledge itself, the very cradle of taxonomy and its associated lexicon, to seek the truth behind Hornet's nature. Using the most relevant definition associated with the void material we see in Hollow Knight, this substance would be defined as containing nothing, as in a void space. This makes sense when thinking about the vessels and the overarching theme of creating a Hollow Knight, a source of nothingness with enough space to contain something, or more specifically, fucking God. But the first part of the Hornet isn't void argument crumbles when this definition is misinterpreted without fully observing other aspects of the franchise. For example, I guess there's this lore guy called Mossman or something that cleverly joked about Hornet being made of screen transitions in his Silksong E3 demo analysis video, essentially saying that since Hornet doesn't spill out void or leave a shade behind when she dies, that this automatically gives him the rights to slander everyone that doesn't share his perspective. You know, like every other person on social media in 2020. Truthfully, this attempt at defending the Hornet isn't void argument does little more than prove how wrong the theory is fundamentally if we dig a bit below the surface. You see, Plantbag made a severe oversight when making this joke, which ultimately leads to the downfall of his entire outlook, with his main point being that Hornet would have to be made of screen transitions instead of Void. He even went as far as to mock the death animation of Hornet, saying that Void would have to cover the entire room that she died in if she truly was made of Void. Foolish Phelim he is, he never even considered the bigger, vastly superior picture that was in front of us the whole time. That being that screen transitions are instead made of Void, not the other way around. Let's take a quick look at Void's definition again. Containing nothing. I'm sorry, but do we not see and do absolutely nothing when going through screen transitions in Silksong? Void. Does the black explosion during the animation of Hornet dying not come out exactly from the spot where she dies on the screen at the time? Void. Do we not ever see rooms completely empty of Void when we kill snail shamans or siblings or, hell, even the knight, despite the fact that they explode as well? Void. Do we not see a visual representation of Void literally becoming a screen transition after the Pantheon of the Night? Do I even need to say it this time? Void! But this is only the tip of the iceberg. I don't expect this point alone to be enough evidence for everyone to see the truth, so let's move on to the other major part which justifies the existence of Void Hornet. We just explained that Hornet is irrefutably Void under the context of being made of the Void substance. That's a given at this point, but we also only looked at one interpretation of this claim. It's essentially understood throughout the community that Hornet is the offspring of Hera the Beast and the Pale King, due to some type of agreement between these two individuals. This was somewhat of a failsafe for the Pale King to add a third layer of security behind the Temple of the Black Egg so that the Hollow Knight couldn't be reached. But Hera was only willing to help if the king agreed to donate his pale seed into her beastly womb, like the simp that he is. And yet, we never actually see this agreement come to a legislative conclusion or even observe it as a legitimately sanctioned bargain in any lore tablets around Hallownest. At best, we get a handful of cryptic leads and half-baked mentions of this deal from NPCs all over the kingdom, leading to generally no outward display of jurisdiction over the secret deal. And why would the king even want this known publicly in the first place? So he can show his people how much of a sellout he is to sex his body in an attempt to keep his precious little buzzsaw playground intact? No, it was hardly even an option to go fully public with this decision, let alone to announce an accord such as this politically and officially. Finally, this leads us to the second phase of the truth, and all remaining answers can still be located within our sacred text. Yes, Void refers to something which contains nothing, but if we put all evidence for Hornet's hollow nature aside, we can instead draw our attention to the chief definition of the word Void: of no legal force or effect. Null. That's correct. If your limited insight prohibits you from seeing the genuine dispositions of emptiness inside of our little spider culprit here, you simply cannot deny the fact that the very agreement which gave her life, the singular deal struck under the public eye with no regard towards legal affairs at its core, is the defining characteristic of Hornet's bloodline fundamentally. She not only contains Void, she was built upon Void. The very cause and nature of her birth, from royal seed to arachnid womb, was nothing more than a Void transaction. The existence of such a child as a product from a bastardized covenant between two desperate figures of power, both of which ultimately could not protect themselves nor effectively fight back against the Radiants even with said offspring, amounts to nothing more than an abundant collection of emptiness. A meaningless, weightless, unavailing arrangement, simply void of purpose. But I'm no fool as to believe it would be this easy. Just beneath the surface and buried from the masses, a lore-changing bombshell such as this finally out in the open for the world to see likely won't be heard by those who intend to cling to their aforementioned false senses of truth. Stuck in their ways, they'll continue to see Hornet with no relations or connections to Void in any shape or form. At the end of the day, even with all the damning evidence I could surmise, everyone will still choose to believe whatever they've been believing. Fickle creatures we are, humans don't exactly feel inclined to renounce our faith over what we believe to be true, despite all of the evidence and red flags which may contradict these very beliefs. Simply put, I may have brought a few hesitant souls to the truth with these claims, but I more than likely changed absolutely nothing overall. And as such, these Hornet isn't Void advocates may think that they've remained victorious, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. The house of cards they've tenaciously defended has been crumbling since the very start of this video. Don't you see? Don't you remember what I said earlier? And all remaining answers can still be located within our sacred text. That's right. The source of all knowledge and the beacon of unwavering truth defends the hornet is void argument until the very end. For if I am to change nothing, if this video served no real purpose, if hornet's biology was relatively useless information that has no significant or direct impact on our day-to-day existence in the real world, then this entire argument would have been pointless from the moment it started. From the very first debate to have arisen over Hornet's relation to Void, every conversation over this matter would be useless. Every attempt to prove Hornet isn't Void would be useless. Every thread, comment, and theory, carefully and articulately crafted around refuting the argument of Void would be utterly, completely, wholeheartedly useless. And why might this be the case? A foolish question. As I said before, look below the surface. Dig deeper into the pit of truth, and you'll find all the answers in plain sight. The question of whether or not Hornet is void is useless. All of the time tearing each other apart over this question has been spent in vain, because the very nature of this discussion has been, and always will be, void. Alright, sorry guys, I'm sorry. Obviously, if you haven't caught on by now, this is just a joke. I was just having a little bit of fun. I know Hornet's not actually made of void. I mean, come on. That would just be ridiculous. She's made of lifeblood.